All 18 of my assistants got pregnant at the same time, and every one of them demanded that I take responsibility. I was certain I had never touched any of them, yet they stood together on the rooftop, threatening to jump unless I acknowledged their babies. Left with no choice, I live-streamed amniocentesis tests to prove my innocence. The results showed that I was the biological father of all 18 unborn children. My wife slapped me again and again, calling me a cheating bastard and forcing me to divorce her with nothing. I went to drink with my best friend and pour out my misery, only for him to kick me so hard that he broke 8 of my ribs. Daniel Cooper, you sick bastard. You slept with every woman you could get your hands on. I hate trash like you who can't keep it in their pants. I fled back to my hometown to seek comfort from my parents, but before I could say much, they beat me to death with their hose. Even as I died, I could not understand why all 18 assistants had been carrying my children. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day the assistants forced me to acknowledge the babies. The air was thick with perfume. 18 assistants, each beautiful in her own way, had me surrounded. I jolted awake. I had been reborn. Mr. Cooper, you can't just abandon us, said the lead PR assistant, tears glimmering in her eyes as she gently stroked her belly. We're already nearly 3 months pregnant. You have to take responsibility for us. I shuddered, cold sweat soaking through my shirt in an instant. Dealing with one beautiful woman was hard enough. 18 pregnant ones was a whole other nightmare. Even until my death, I could not understand it. Despite being worth billions, I had always been faithful to my wife. I had never touched another woman. Yet in my previous life, all 18 assistants accused me of getting them pregnant. I assumed it was a smear campaign by a business rival and laughed it off. But they threatened to jump from a building, forcing me to undergo a live-streamed amniocentesis paternity test. The results showed that all 18 unborn babies were mine. My wife broke down on the spot. Through her tears, she said I betrayed her and forced me to walk away from our fortune with nothing. In the end, everyone turned against me, and I died alone in my own home. But how had they become pregnant with my children? Mr. Cooper. Mr. Cooper, say something? The assistants' voices pulled me from my memories. This time, I could not fall into their trap again. I raised a hand to cut off their overlapping voices and pressed the intercom. Security, lock down this entire floor immediately. Collect and secure all electronic devices. Since all of you are so certain the babies are mine, no one is leaving until the truth comes out. Before I had even finished speaking, 18 phones were raised in front of me. So, Mr. Cooper is planning to hold us hostage? That's fine. Vanessa Smith turned her screen toward me. The screen showed a scheduled email. We set it to send automatically. If we're out of contact for more than 2 hours, these little secrets will be sent straight to every major news outlet. The headline will be, Billionaire CEO sleeps with 18 women, then abandons them all. Pregnant assistants, tearful accusations. My whole body shook violently, as if every ounce of strength had been drained from me. Those women, beautiful in every shape and size, now looked like demons sent to drag me to hell. As long as I avoided doing that damned live-streamed paternity test, perhaps I could escape the tragedy of my past life. But the very next second, what is all this commotion? Don't come over. I tried to stop my wife, Sarah White, but she had already hurried over. Confused, Sarah looked at me surrounded by the assistants. Then her gaze settled on the phones they were holding up. Sarah, let me explain. I tried to push past the women surrounding me. I swear I've never betrayed you. I have no idea how they became pregnant. She pointed a trembling finger at me and screamed, so you say you didn't do it, and that makes it true? 18 women are accusing you. Are you saying they're all lying? 8 years. I've been with you for 8 years. When your business failed, I ate cheap takeout with you in that tiny rented apartment. When you were hospitalized for surgery, I stayed awake at your bedside for 3 days and nights. Cheating would have been bad enough. But you got 18 women pregnant at the same time. Daniel Cooper, what did you ever take me for? Her face was twisted with the same hysteria I remembered from my previous life, but this time, I did not try to defend myself in a panic. I only let out a quiet sigh. After 8 years together, I can honestly say I have never done a single thing to betray you or this family. From beginning to end, you were the only woman I ever had. Why would you rather believe strangers than the husband who has been by your side for 8 years? Is that really how worthless you think I am? Evidence. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, she jabbed a sharp fingernail so close to my face that it nearly struck me. The bastards in their bellies are the evidence. All 18 women can testify. Daniel Cooper, the way you refuse to admit what you did disgusts me. I must have been blind to marry a beast like you. Before I could finish speaking, She suddenly raised her hand. 2 sharp slaps landed across my face. My ears rang and my cheeks burned. After hitting me and tearing into me, Sarah stood there like a victorious general. Then she turned to shield the assistants behind her. Don't be afraid, everyone. I may be a victim too, but I'm also at fault for failing to keep my husband in line. I'll make sure you get justice. She pointed at me and shouted, Daniel Cooper, tomorrow we're doing a live-streamed paternity test. Let the whole country see how a billionaire CEO abuses his female employees. I watched them leave together. It felt as if she had carved a piece out of my heart with her own hands. Cold wind swept through that hollow, carrying 8 years of memories with it. This time, I did not turn to my best friend to complain, as I had in my previous life. I would not let myself be cornered again, not when it would only end with me dying for a crime I never committed. But the next second, someone began pounding on my office door. Daniel Cooper, what kind of monster are you? Open the damn door. William Lee's furious roar made the door shake. You're a man. If you did it, then own it. You got them pregnant, and now you're refusing to take responsibility. There are plenty of guys out there who can't even get a date, while you had 18 women at once. How could you do this to Sarah? Just as I thought. Sarah had gotten to him first and played the victim. I forced myself to stay calm and called through the door. William, what did Sarah tell you? You've got the nerve to ask? He spat on the other side of the door. Sarah cried until her eyes were swollen. 18 pregnant women are waiting for you in the conference room to take responsibility, and you still call yourself a man? Sarah sent me to get a sample of your hair for the test. His indignant accusations sent a cold sweat down my back. After the paternity report came out in my previous life, he kicked me so hard that he broke 8 of my ribs. William was a champion kickboxer for 15 years. I would not stand a chance against him. I could not let him get hold of my hair. I quickly steadied myself and lied through the door. William, I think I might have the flu. I'm terribly dizzy, and I don't want to pass it to you. Whatever it is, we can talk another day. Just go home for now. Cut the crap. William pounded on the door again. You can hide today, but you can't hide forever. You cowardly bastard. You did it, but you won't own it. I'm getting your hair for that test today, one way or another. Sweat broke out across my palms. William, trust me. There's a real misunderstanding here. I swear I never did anything with any of them. A misunderstanding? William sneered from outside the door. 18 pregnant women all just happened to misunderstand you? Daniel Cooper, you can't even be bothered to make your lies believable. He slammed his foot against the door, making my ears ring. If you didn't do it, then take the test and get it over with. The more you hide, the guiltier you look. Just let me explain. Explain my ass. He kicked the door again. A real man owns up to what he's done. Acting like a coward only makes the rest of us look bad. Each deafening blow against the door pounded against my chest like a drumbeat. Panic overtook me. I scrambled to drag the desk beside me over to block the door. I could not let him get inside. Absolutely not. But just as I dragged the desk in front of the door, I heard a soft click. My blood seemed to freeze in an instant. It was over. I had forgotten. William was my best friend, the one I entrusted with the spare key to my office. The moment the door opened, William grabbed me by the collar and slammed me against the wall. I tried desperately to protect my hair, but he drove his knee into my stomach. Pain flashed through me, and my vision went dark. Trying to hide now? His thick fingers tangled in my hair and tore out a fistful. If you're innocent, what are you so afraid of? A searing pain tore across my scalp. I watched him shove the clump of hair, streaked with blood, into a sealed bag, and felt as though I had fallen into an ice pit. I lunged at him like a madman. My fingertips had barely brushed the edge of the plastic bag when William twisted my arm behind my back and forced me to the floor. Now you're scared? Why didn't you think about the consequences when you got 18 women pregnant? I struggled with everything I had, but could only watch helplessly as he tucked the sealed bag into his jacket. The more William cursed, the angrier he became. Then he grabbed a solid wood chair nearby and swung it toward the back of my head. Just as all hope left me, familiar footsteps sounded at the door.
Mom, Dad.
Please save me. My mother stumbled inside and shoved William away in a frenzy. Stop it. Who gave you the right to hit my son like this? My father rushed in behind her, his face livid as he stepped in front of me. Can't this be discussed properly? Did you have to resort to violence? William panted heavily and held up the sealed bag. Sir, ma'am, ask him what he did. He got 18 young women pregnant. Those poor girls are threatening to jump off a building and kill themselves. One test will settle whether he did it or not. If he's been wronged, I, William Lee, will be the first to get on my knees and apologize.
No.
I fought desperately to pull away. This is a trap. My mother seized my arm, tears streaming down her face. Daniel, I believe you're innocent. Let's do the test. I'll wait for the results with you. My father, his eyes red, had already grabbed my other arm. You're taking that test today, whether you want to or not. The Cooper family will not bear this kind of disgrace. They dragged me away between them. As the blood-streaked lock of hair was fed into the testing machine, my mother held my hand tightly and told me, I believe you. Then the screen flashed. Probability of paternity, 99.9999%. My parents' eyes turned cold at once. My heart felt as though it was plunged into an icy ocean. The result was exactly the same as in my previous life, extinguishing my last sliver of hope. You disgraceful bastard. My father slapped me so hard that I crashed into the wall. There's no place in the Cooper family for a coward who does the deed but refuses to own it. My mother snatched up her handbag and smashed it against me. You've ruined the lives of 18 young women. How could I have given birth to a beast like you?
Dad. Mom.
Wake up. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. How could I possibly have gotten 18 women pregnant at the same time? For the past 5 years, I came home on time every day. Sarah was the only woman in my heart. You ungrateful bastard. My father grabbed a heavy paperweight from the desk and hurled it at me. I could not dodge in time. It struck my shoulder, and I sucked in a sharp breath from the pain. All 18 of their medical reports are right here. The evidence is undeniable, and you still dare to deny it. My mother lunged at me, sobbing as she hit me. The Cooper family has always been respectable. How could we have raised a beast who does something so shameful and refuses to own it? You've humiliated us beyond repair. Still crying, she clawed at my face, leaving burning streaks of blood. That only made my father angrier. He pulled off his belt and lashed it across me. If I don't beat some sense into you today, I don't deserve to call myself your father. The belt cracked dully against my back. Curled up in the corner, I had nowhere to run. My mother grabbed a mop and joined in. This is what you get for sleeping around, for refusing to take responsibility. How are we supposed to face Sarah's family? The mop handle slammed hard against my spine. Yet even that pain could not compare to the chill in my heart. Again, the moment that absurd test report came out, everyone turned into strangers driven mad. I endured the pain and roared. What has gotten into you? You'd rather believe that damned report than your own son? You're still denying it? My father kicked me in the stomach. The test results are right there in black and white, yet you expect us to believe your lies instead? My mother swung the mop handle viciously at my legs. One test wasn't enough for you? You want a second one now? You're just too scared to admit the truth. It's not that I'm scared to admit it. I curled up on the floor, shielding my head. I want the truth. There has to be something wrong with that report. The truth. My father grabbed my hair and slammed my head against the floor. 18 pregnant women are the truth. I did not know how long it lasted before they finally grew tired of hitting me. Then they turned to Sarah. Sarah, we support you. Make this beast leave with nothing. The house, the cars, the savings, everything goes to you. Sarah nodded obediently. Thank you, Mom. Dad. My heart went completely cold as I watched. In my previous life, they had beaten me to death with a hoe. In this one, they were trying to beat me to death again. They refused to believe me. All they believed was that damned test report.
Fine.
I'll agree to the divorce. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth. But I need to clear my name. You can't pin these pregnancies of unknown origin on me. A strange smile appeared on Sarah's face. Fine. At her signal, William, his face murderous, aimed a high-definition live-stream camera at me. Daniel Cooper. Today, in front of the whole world, you're going to give Sarah and every woman whose feelings you deceived and whose pregnancy you caused an explanation. I'll make sure everyone sees what a hypocritical, cheating bastard you really are. He and several burly men shoved me all the way to the busiest plaza in the city. Drawn by the commotion, people stopped to watch. Sarah stood before the camera, her shoulders trembling as she cried. My chest ached. Instinctively, I reached out to comfort her. But she recoiled like a startled rabbit and slapped me across the face. Don't touch me with your filthy hands. You cheating, lying bastard who sleeps with women and abandons them. You make me sick. The live stream comments exploded at once. Drop dead, you cheating bastard. You go, girl. I can smell the scumbag through the screen. He deserves to be chemically castrated. I recorded this. Can't wait for it to trend. She swayed unsteadily, and pain twisted through my chest. Instinctively, I reached out to steady her. Sarah, we loved each other so much. Why won't you believe me? But she flung my hand away as if it had burned her and stumbled back, her eyes full of fear and disgust. "Don't touch me. You disgust me." The sight of her left me both heartbroken and helpless. "Sarah, you know you're the only one I've ever loved. Why are you doing this?" A bitter laugh broke from her as tears streamed down her face. "You call that love? You got 18 women pregnant at once, then refused to take responsibility for any of them. You refused to take responsibility for me, for them, or for those unborn children. You slept around without a care in the world. Do you really think that's acceptable, Daniel Cooper? You are a heartless bastard." As she spoke, her emotions finally broke. With a thud, she dropped to her knees and began banging her head against the ground. "I'm begging you. Please leave me alone. I really can't take this anymore." The 18 assistants knelt in a neat row behind her, each holding up a paternity report that identified me as the father. The crowd's anger erupted completely. "The evidence is overwhelming, and he still wants to deny it? What trash. He's not even a real man. The proof is right there, and he still won't admit it. Beat this scumbag to death. Cheating trash like him deserves to be castrated. Putting on an amnesia act now? You weren't saying that when you were having fun. Hit him. Scumbags like him deserve it." The live stream comments flew by in a frenzy. The accusations and furious shouts from the crowd drowned me out in an instant. I tried to explain. "No, it isn't what you think. I never touched any of them." But my voice was barely audible beneath the roar of the crowd. "You're still making excuses. Hit him." I did not know who struck first, but a bottle of water smashed into my head. Then fists and kicks rained down on me from every direction. I curled up, shielding my vital spots. In the chaos, a sharp pain exploded at the back of my head. Everything went black, and I lost consciousness. I did not know how long had passed when I woke to the smell of disinfectant. A stark white hospital ceiling filled my vision. The slightest movement made my whole body feel as though it had been torn apart. The nurse changing my dressing saw that I was awake. She gave me a disdainful look and snorted. I closed my eyes weakly, consumed by humiliation and despair. Then a thought suddenly struck me. At last, I understood why all 18 assistants had become pregnant with my children, even though I never touched any of them. The ceiling tiles above me were stained with faint yellow water spots. The nurse's footsteps faded down the hall, her rubber soles squeaking rhythmically against the linoleum. My head throbbed with a dull, sickening pulse, each beat sending spikes of white-hot agony down my neck. "Think," I told myself. "Think, damn it. How could 18 women carry my biological children when I never touched a single one of them?" In my past life, the sheer absurdity of the situation had driven me into a panic. I had spent every waking moment begging people to believe me, defending my honor, and drowning in confusion. I had treated it like a bizarre nightmare. Or a nightmare bad joke. I had forgotten to look at the cold, hard facts of biology. Paternity test results don't lie about DNA matches. 99.9999% meant those unborn children carried my genetic sequence. If I hadn't slept with those women, there was only one other way on Earth for my genetic material to enter 18 different women at roughly the exact same time. Medical extraction. My breathing hitched. A memory buried deep beneath 4 months of crushing work, schedules, and corporate stress surfaced with terrifying clarity. For months ago, Sarah had brought home a set of medical pamphlets. She had sat on my lap, her eyes glistening with gentle tears, talking about how much she wanted a baby before we turned 35. She claimed her gynecologist had warned her about her declining fertility, and she begged me to go with her to the Apex Fertility and Reproductive Institute, a high-end private clinic run by her cousin, Dr. Richard Vance. She had asked me to undergo a comprehensive reproductive screening and store sperm samples just in case we needed intrauterine insemination later. I had agreed without a second thought. I loved her. I trusted her. I had filled 3 specimen vials over 2 weeks. 3 vials. In the hands of a corrupt fertility specialist, 3 high-concentration vials were more than enough to perform 19 or 20 intrauterine inseminations, IUI, or in vitro fertilizations, IVF. I closed my eyes as a wave of icy horror washed over me. It hadn't been a random act of fate. It was a meticulously planned biological frame-up. Sarah hadn't just wanted a divorce. She wanted to destroy my moral standing, obliterate my public image, render me legally at fault in our marriage, and strip me of every single penny of my multi-billion-dollar corporate assets through public pressure and court settlements. And William? William was her enforcer. His anger wasn't righteous indignation, it was a brutal performance to keep me physically broken, isolated, and unable to investigate. You terrifying monsters, I whispered into the quiet hospital room, my voice raspy and dry. I reached up with trembling fingers, feeling the coarse bandage wrapped around my scalp. They thought I was beaten. They thought public humiliation and my parents' betrayal had shattered my spirit just like in my previous life. They were wrong. Rebirth hadn't given me a second chance to beg for mercy, it had given me a second chance to drag them all into the abyss. I pulled out the 4-line from the back of my hand. A drop of dark blood welled on my skin, but I ignored the stinging pain. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, gripped the nightstand to steady my dizzy frame, and stood up. I wasn't going to die in a ditch this time. Escaping the hospital was shockingly easy. The mob outside had dispersed after beating me bloody, assuming I was ruined beyond recovery. I slipped out through the service exit, wearing a gray hoodie I stole from an unattended laundry cart. My phone had been smashed during the beating, but I remembered one number by heart, a number I had never used in my previous life. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in the passenger seat of a tinted black SUV, parked in an alley 3 blocks from the hospital. Behind the wheel sat Marcus Thorne, a former military intelligence officer who now ran an elite private security firm. I had saved his daughter's life 5 years ago by funding her bone marrow transplant. He had told me then, if you ever need a weapon or a shadow, Daniel, just call. Marcus handed me a bottle of water and a clean, encrypted smartphone. His dark eyes flicked to the bruised side of my face. You look like hell, Cooper. The news channels are broadcasting your face non-stop. They're calling you the monstrous CEO. It's a setup, Marcus, I said, my voice cold and steady. An intrauterine insemination frame up using frozen samples I left at Apex Fertility 4 months ago. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. He was a man trained to expect the worst of human nature, yet even he looked chilled by the audacity of the scheme. 18 women? That's not just a scheme, Daniel. That's a mass medical operation.
How?
Did they pull off 18 procedures without those women blowing the whistle? That's what we're going to find out, I replied, staring out the rain-streaked window. Some of those 18 assistants, like Vanessa Smith, were definitely paid off. She led the charge on the rooftop. But some of the younger ones, the interns who joined the PR department 6 months ago, they didn't look angry on the rooftop. They looked terrified. I turned to Marcus. Find me the youngest assistant, the one who joined last, Lily Zhang. Marcus tapped the tablet mounted on his dashboard. Within 3 minutes, a file appeared on the screen. Lily Zhang, 22 years old, hired 3 months ago as a junior
Secrétariat l'aide.
Her mother was admitted to the ICU at Central Hospital 8 weeks ago with acute renal failure. Medical bills exceeded $300,000. I leaned back, a bitter smile touching my lips. And where did the money for her mother's treatment come from? An anonymous charitable trust, Marcus said, scrolling down. Registered in the Cayman Islands, tied back to an offshore shell company owned by William Lee. Bingo, I murmured. Let's go pay Lily a visit. Lily Zhang lived in a tiny, dilapidated apartment on the outskirts of the city. When I knocked on the door, wearing my hood low, she opened it expecting a food delivery. When she saw my face, bruised, pale, but filled with an unyielding intensity, she gasped and tried to slam the door shut. Marcus jammed his tactical boot into the frame, shoved the door open, and stepped inside, shutting it quietly behind us. Mr. Cooper. Lily backed away until her spine hit the peeling wallpaper of her small living room. She was trembling violently, her hands instinctively wrapping around her slightly swollen stomach. Please don't hurt me. I didn't want to do it. They forced me. I walked over to her modest dining table and sat down, leaning forward with my hands clasped together. I'm not here to hurt you, Lily, I said, keeping my tone quiet, almost gentle. I'm here to offer you a choice. In 3 days, Sarah and William are going to finalize their corporate takeover and push me into complete bankruptcy. Once I'm destroyed, do you really think they'll leave 18 witnesses walking around with evidence? Lily's face turned deathly pale. What do you mean? William Lee is a ruthless man, I said coldly. He used an offshore account to pay off your mother's medical bills in exchange for your silence and your participation in this medical fraud. Do you think a man who buys people will hesitate to eliminate them when the job is done? Once the news cycle dies down, do you think your mother's anonymous charity funds will keep coming? Tears burst from Lily's eyes. She collapsed onto her knees, sobbing. uncontrollably. I didn't know, she wept, clutching her head. Mrs. Cooper. Sarah, she told us it was a mandatory executive health protocol. She said all female staff in the core administration had to receive monthly wellness injections and routine gynecological exams at Apex Fertility as part of a high-end corporate benefit program. My eyes narrowed. So, you didn't even know you were being inseminated? Not at first. Lily sobbed. They put us under twilight anesthesia for what they called cervical screenings. It wasn't until 2 months ago when my period stopped that Dr. Vance told me I was pregnant. I was terrified.
Eva.
Never even had a boyfriend. When I panicked, Mr. Lee came to my apartment.
He
showed me my mother's hospital bills and said if I didn't play along with the rooftop protest and sign the paternity claim, my mother would be unplugged from her life support that very night. A dark, boiling rage flared in my chest. Sarah and William hadn't just framed me. They had physically violated 18 innocent young women under the guise of corporate wellness, using my stolen biological material to turn them into living weapons against me.
It was sickening.
It was monstrous. Lily, I said softly, crouching down in front of her. Do you have the medical discharge papers from Apex Fertility? The ones you signed during those wellness exams? She nodded frantically through her tears. Yes. I kept copies in my closet.
I
was scared. I wanted proof in case something went wrong. Give them to me, I commanded gently. And I promise you 2 things. Your mother will be transferred to a top-tier private hospital under my personal protection tonight, and the monsters who did this to you will spend the rest of their lives in prison. With Lily's medical records and Marcus's cybersecurity network working round the clock, the horrifying tapestry of the plot came together over the next 48 hours. Sarah had been cheating on me with William Lee for over 3 years. William, despite his public persona as my loyal kickboxer best friend, was deeply in debt from illegal offshore sports gambling. Sarah, hungry for absolute control over my billion-dollar logistics conglomerate, had realized that a standard divorce would only net her a fraction of my wealth due to our ironclad prenuptial agreement. If she simply divorced me, she got $20 million. If she proved I was an irredeemable scumbag who had committed mass workplace sexual abuse and impregnated 18 subordinates, public pressure would force the board of directors to remove me, the courts would invalidate the prenup on grounds of extreme moral turpitude, and she would assume 100% control of the company's shares. As the victimized spouse,
Dr.
Richard Vance, Sarah's cousin at Apex Fertility, had forged the consent forms, used my stored vials, and performed covert intrauterine inseminations on 6 unsuspecting junior assistants during fake medical exams. The other 12 older assistants, including Vanessa Smith, were willing accomplices paid millions from Williams' offshore accounts to orchestrate the rooftop jump threat and the public lynch mob campaign. They had covered every angle. They had controlled the media narrative. They had turned my parents into my executioners. Except they didn't know I had died once already. They didn't know I knew the end of the script. Boss, Marcus walked into the safe house, throwing a tablet onto the table. Sarah and William just announced an emergency press conference and shareholder meeting for tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. at the Grand Regency Hotel.
They've
invited every national media outlet. On the tablet screen, Sarah was giving a tearful interview outside our former marital home. She was dressed in black, looking fragile and heartbroken. I am officially filing for emergency asset freeze and corporate receivership, Sarah said into the microphones, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Daniel Cooper has proven himself to be a danger to society and a monster to women. Tomorrow, I will take control of the Cooper Group to ensure those 18 poor mothers and their unborn babies receive full financial compensation from his liquidated assets. Sitting beside her on the bench, holding her hand with a look of stern protection, was William Lee. I stared at their faces on the screen, feeling a cold, calm certainty wash over my body. The deep ache in my ribs and the throb in my head seemed to disappear. Marcus, I said quietly. Yeah, Daniel? Prepare the broadcast equipment. Tomorrow, we aren't just going to defend
ourselves.
I looked up, my eyes flashing with a lethal chill. We're going to host a public execution. The grand ballroom of the Regency Hotel was packed to capacity. Over 50 news crews had set up camera rigs, their bright lights illuminating the grand stage. Hundreds of shareholders, corporate executives, and curious onlookers filled the rows of gilded chairs. On stage sat Sarah White, flanked by her high-powered legal team. To her left sat the 18 assistants, all dressed in matching white dresses, looking like a choir of victims. Vanessa Smith sat in the center, weeping on cue for the flashing cameras. William Lee stood near the podium like a stoic bodyguard, his broad arms crossed over his chest. My parents sat in the front row. My mother was wearing black, her face haggard, while my father sat stiffly, gripping his walking cane with white knuckles. Looking at the floor in bitter shame, Sarah stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice quivering with expertly practiced sorrow. "Today is the saddest day of my life. 8 years ago, I married a man I believed was honorable. But as the world now knows, Daniel Cooper is a predator who used his wealth and power to ruin 18 young
Lives.
The reporters scribbled furiously on their pads. Camera shutters clicked like a swarm of mechanical locusts. Therefore, Sarah continued, raising a signed legal document. With the full backing of the board and the majority of voting shares, I am officially declaring Daniel Cooper unfit for leadership and assuming full executive authority over the Cooper Group.
Boom.
The heavy mahogany double doors at the back of the ballroom were slammed open. The loud crack echoed through the massive hall like a gunshot. Every head turned. In shock, cameras swung away from the stage and rushed toward the entrance. I walked into the ballroom. I wasn't wearing the blood-stained clothes from the hospital. I was dressed in a tailored three-piece black suit, my hair neatly combed back, revealing the white bandage on my forehead like a badge of honor. Behind me marched Marcus Thorne and 4 cold-eyed security operatives carrying metal briefcase rigs. Gasps erupted through the crowd. "It's Daniel Cooper. He dared to show up? Beat him out. Scumbag." William Lee's eyes flared with rage. He lunged off the stage, pointing a thick finger at me. "Daniel, you coward. You still have the audacity to show your face. Here, get the hell out before I break your legs." He rushed forward, swinging a heavy right hook straight at my jaw. In my past life, I was helpless against his training. But this time I didn't fight back alone. Marcus stepped forward smoothly, caught William's wrist in midair, twisted his arm back with a sharp knee to his thighs, and slammed the former kickboxing champion face first onto the marble floor with a sickening
Crunch.
The crowd screamed in panic. "Security, call the police." Sarah shrieked from the stage, her composure instantly shattering into panic. "He's violently attacking people. Get him out." "Shut up, Sarah," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but carrying through the rooms. High acoustics, it cut through the chaos like a honed blade. I walked down the central aisle, stepping right over William, who was groaning on the floor as Marcus pinned his wrist behind his back. I walked straight onto the stage. Sarah backed away, her hands trembling as she hit the podium. You can't be here," she stammered, her eyes darting frantically.
The
"Paternity tests are done. The public knows. You're ruined." "The paternity tests are real, Sarah," I said, stepping up to the main microphone. I looked directly into the flashing news lenses. "Those 18 unborn children carry my DNA. I have never denied that." A wave of confused murmurs swept through the reporters. "Then you admit it," Vanessa Smith yelled, standing up from the assistants' row. "You admit you're the father." "I am the biological source," I corrected, looking Vanessa dead in the eye.
but
"I am not the father through sexual intercourse. I am the victim of the largest medical fraud and illegal human experimentation scheme in this city's history." Before Sarah could scream, Marcus plugged a high-powered encrypted transmitter into the hall's main AV console. The giant LED screens behind the stage flickered, and suddenly, the grand court documents and media graphics were replaced by high-definition video feeds and server logs. 3 months ago, I announced, pointing at the screen, my wife, Sarah White, persuaded me to deposit sperm samples at Apex Fertility Institute under the pretense of family planning. Here are the access logs, signed by Apex Director Dr. Richard Vance, Sarah's biological cousin. A document flashed on the screen showing the serial numbers of my 3 specimen vials. And here, I pressed a button on a remote, are the internal surgical logs from Apex Fertility over the past 12 weeks. The screen displayed a massive spreadsheet detailing 18 specific dates. 18 intrauterine insemination procedures. I read aloud, my voice echoing coldly through the silent ballroom. 6 of these procedures were performed on junior employees, like Lily Zhang, without their knowledge or consent, under the guise of mandatory company health checks organized exclusively by Sarah White. The crowd went dead silent. In the front row, my father gasped, his jaw dropping open. My mother froze, her hand flying to her mouth.
No.
That's fake. He forged those documents. Sarah screamed, her voice turning shrill and hysterical. Don't listen to him. He bought those fakes. Is this fake too, Sarah? I pointed to the secondary screen. A audio recording began to play over the ballroom speakers, crisp, clear, and unmistakable. It was William Lee's voice. Make sure the young interns don't talk, Vance. If they ask questions about the anesthesia, tell them it was a routine uterine.
Check.
Once Sarah takes over Cooper Group, you'll get your $10 million. Daniel will be ruined, broke, and in jail for sexual assault. He'll never figure out we used his stored samples. Then came Sarah's voice on the tape. Just make sure all 18 test positive. Before the divorce hearing, William, my dear husband is so naive. He thinks I loved him for 8 years. I can't wait to see him beg on his knees. The audio recording cut off. The ballroom was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Every camera was locked onto Sarah. Her face had drained of all color, turning a ghostly, sickly green. She swayed on her feet, clutching the edge of the table, as if the ground beneath her were collapsing. And finally, I said, gesturing toward the row of pregnant assistants. Lily Zhang stood up from the end of the row. Tears were streaming down her face, but her chin was held high. She walked over to the podium, pulled a thick folder of signed affidavits from her bag, and handed them directly to the lead reporter from the state media outlet. Everything Mr. Cooper said is true. Lily cried into the microphone, her voice shaking with bitter indignation. Sarah White and William Lee forced us. They threatened my mother's life and paid off the senior staff. Mr. Cooper never laid a finger on any of us. Flash, flash, flash. A frenzy of camera strobes blindsided the stage. The live-streamed chat on the giant side monitors, which had been hurling vile insults at me minutes ago, was moving so fast the text became a blur. Holy shit, what a twist. She forcibly impregnated 18 women to steal his company? This woman is a psychopathic demon. Arrest her. Arrest William Lee. The CEO is innocent. He was framed. Sirens wailed outside the Grand Regency Hotel. 4 minutes later, heavy footfalls echoed down the corridor as armed officers from the State Economic Crimes and Major Offenses Bureau swarmed into the ballroom. Dr. Richard Vance had already been arrested at Apex Fertility 10 minutes prior, his confession already logged into the police database. Sarah White, William Lee, the lead detective announced, stepping onto the stage and pulling out 2 pairs of steel handcuffs. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit grand larceny, illegal medical experimentation, unauthorized use of biological material, extortion, and bodily assault. William, struggling against Marcus's grip on the floor, spat blood onto the carpet and roared curses at me. Daniel Cooper, you scumbag. I should have killed you in your office. You tried, I said, looking down at him with utter disdain. In 2 different lifetimes, William, but you failed. The police yanked William to his feet and dragged him away in chains. Sarah dropped to her knees right in front of me, grabbing the hem of my trousers. The icy, arrogant queen was gone. In her place was a weeping, pathetic wreck. Daniel, please, she sobbed, clutching my shoes. I was stupid. William forced me. He threatened me. I still love you, Daniel. 8 years. Remember our 8 years together in that tiny rented apartment? Please, save me. Don't let them take me away. I pulled my shoe back from her grasp, refusing to let her filthy fingers touch me. 8 years, Sarah, I said softly, looking down at her with eyes as cold as stone. I gave you my heart, my wealth, and my unyielding trust. And you rewarded me by trying to destroy my humanity. You didn't just ruin me, you violated 18 innocent women for greed. I turned my back on her as the officers slapped the steel cuffs around her wrists and dragged her away, screaming my name into the cold air. As the commotion settled, 2 people pushed through the gathering crowd toward me. My father and mother. My father's cane was shaking. Tears poured down my mother's bruised face, the face she had clawed in a frenzy just days ago. Daniel? My mother sobbed, reaching out her trembling, wrinkled hands to touch my arm. Son, we didn't know. We were tricked by that wicked woman. Forgive us, Daniel. Please come home with us. My father hung his head, his shoulders shaking with silent, heavy weeping. Daniel, your father was blind. I hit you. I beat you. Son, can you ever forgive your old man? I looked at them. These were the parents who had raised me. But in my previous life, they were also the ones who had beaten me to death with hose in the cold dirt of my hometown, driven by blind shame and a lack of faith in their own blood. In this life, they had beaten me with a belt and a mop the second a piece of paper told them I was a monster. Their love was conditional. Their trust was paper thin. No, I said quietly. My mother froze. Daniel? I don't hate you, I said, pulling my arm gently out of her reach.
But the
Parents I knew died the moment you chose to believe a piece of paper over the son you raised for 30 years. The Cooper family money will continue to pay for your retirement house and your medical care. But as for being your son, that ended today. I turned away, ignoring their heartbroken cries behind me, and walked toward the exit. Outside the hotel, the morning sun was breaking through the heavy gray clouds, casting a golden light across the bustling city streets. Fresh, cool air filled my lungs. Marcus walked up beside me, handing me a clean coat. What about the 18 assistants and the unborn children, boss? Marcus asked, quietly. I stopped at the top of the marble steps, looking out over the skyline of the city I owned. Set up a dedicated $50 million trust fund, I ordered calmly. Provide full medical care, counseling, and housing for every single one of those women. For those who choose to keep the children, the fund will cover their education and living expenses until they turn 25. They were victims of Sarah's madness. They won't suffer on my watch. Understood, Mr. Cooper. Marcus bowed his head respectfully. And your company? I straightened my tie, feeling the heavy burden of my past life finally melt away into the crisp morning wind. Called aboard, I said, stepping into the waiting black sedan. It's time to show the city who really owns the Cooper empire.